There's one myth that we should debunk in this discussion. There is generally the idea that during apartheid, everything was hunky-dory, no corruption, nothing. Apartheid was a fantastically corrupt society. We did have a period where the leadership generally was a different kind of leadership. When you had the likes of Nelson Mandela, Oliver Tambo, Robert Sobukwe, Wilton Mkwai, Govan Mbeki, Dora Tamana, all these heroes and heroines who were prepared to sacrifice, they had a different ethic. For them, it was not about themselves.
It was not politics of the stomach.
No, it was not about themselves. To the extent that they were willing to put their lives on the line. Now, that's a different leadership ethic.
Yes.
Now, when the leadership ethic becomes one where before you do anything, you start by asking the question, what is in it for me? Once you establish that there's an ethic,
It sort of shifts the moral compass. Uncle Kaz, you served in the presidency across two very, very different periods in South Africa's time. And one of the things that is always a worry, especially amongst people, is that when trust in public institutions starts to waver, what sort of adjustments needs to happen inside for things to start changing?
yes, indeed, I had the privilege to serve in different presidencies. During the presidency of President Zuma and during the presidency of President Ramaphosa. You're right in that we have seen the erosion of public trust in largely state institutions, not just the presidency, but generally state institutions. A lot needs to change. You're asking what needs to change. What needs to change is determined by what causes the loss of trust.
Yes.
And that's what needs to be addressed. If every morning my experience is jumping sewer in front of my house to get into the street, which itself has got potholes, and none of the traffic lights work. I do not have reliable water. I don't have reliable electricity. Those are the experiences that cause loss in trust. So the only way to change, I'm afraid, is a long, long road. It's not something that you can switch on or off like electricity. It will take a long time of repairing public infrastructure, ensuring that public representatives interact genuinely with the people, not simply when elections are looming, where people believe that money that is public funds is not used for personal purposes, as we've seen in many instances where funds are voted for the provision of public goods and services, but people do not experience those public goods and services, yet the money is gone. It's like promising people that you will buy bread. The money disappears, but the bread does not appear.
Yes.
So it's a long, long haul. And I'm afraid that the coming local government elections in November will be watershed elections. Because from what we can see on the ground, people will come out to vote for perceived change. I say perceived change because there's no guarantee that there will be change simply because you've changed people.
It's also close to something that happened around 2010 when, a lot of citizens felt like our government and the system is not working. What we're seeing now in the Matlanga Commission, what we're seeing now, what is happening in the portfolio committees, all the sort of people that we trust with our money, with our taxpayers' money, and even our Chapter 9 institutions that are supposed to be upholding the law have been ripped apart by corruption, but by feasance, by people that simply do not obey the law, yet they're supposed to be the lawmakers.
Yes, it's tragic to witness some of the evidence and personalities that appear before Justice Matlanga and his commissioners, and those that appeared in the ad hoc committee in Parliament. Those are the things that make people to lose confidence. If you take people who are supposedly policemen and women, you would expect that their primary concern really would be to protect citizens.
Yes.
But it appears that some of those in the police actually would need to be protected against them, not the other way around, which is tragic. I'm still of the view, though, that the overwhelming majority of policemen and women are honest, law-abiding people. But there are people who have gone into very strong positions within the police who have, in some instances, managed to manipulate their way into those positions, are using those positions for personal gain, and they are not doing so within the confines of the law. They are, in some instances, it's quite clear in terms of what we are seeing with the Matlanga Commission, the complaint that was laid publicly by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. Some of these people in the police have clearly now teamed up with known criminals in order to personally gain at the expense of ordinary people. It is tragic. I believe, though, that the Chapter 9 institutions still work. If you look at the Office of the Public Protector, I'm of the view that they are doing a very good job.
Mm.
They are exposing what needs to be exposed, and they are doing so fairly. Because I know sometimes mob justice would require that if you are accused of doing something,
You must immediately go to jail.
You must already be guilty.
Yes.
And some people who use mob justice do not have the conception of a person being found not guilty on the basis of evidence. And they work on evidence. You look at other Chapter 9 institutions, such as the Auditor General.
Yes.
They work very, very well. They are very strong. They expose the rot in our municipalities, in our departments, and everywhere. And in recent times, they even went to Parliament to ensure the enactment of a amended Public Audit Act, which requires now that people must face consequences if they get engaged in material irregularities, where they lose the state money. But previously, they weren't really significant consequence management at that time. But now with this, you can actually lose quite a lot of your savings through the work of the Auditor General. There are lots of other Chapter 9 institutions, the Human Rights Commission, the Commission for Gender Equality. Those institutions that support democracy, in my view, they are still intact. They are still intact. We can go into the SOEs, state-owned entities, but those are specific business entities of government which we can talk to. Some of them were ravaged at some stage. Some of them are still ravaged. Those who are making a recovery are making a very good and swift recovery.
When we saw the transition that happened from the Zuma administration, which we all know was an absolute mess, because it's not necessarily that the rot began there, but it got far worse during that time. And the transition then from Jacob Zuma to President Cyril Ramaphosa was supposed to be a new dawn. And that's how it was framed. Yet we're not seeing that change happen. And is it because things have become a lot more complicated, or the rot has seeped in so much into government that it's very difficult to turn things around?
Yes, I subscribe to a different conception of history.
Mm-hmm.
I know many people believe in the great man theory of history. In other words, every historic moment or epoch is characterized by the existence of one great man, and often it's a man. That man can be great because he marauds, kills people, and takes their properties and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the great man does good. He provides citizens with their goodies and fulfills their needs. So you would expect then, if you subscribe to the great man theory of history, you would expect that when one great man leaves, another one comes in,
Yes.
and then they change things through like a magic wand.
Mm.
But governance is an extremely complex enterprise. It's extremely complex.
Yes.
It's not the kind of thing where you can exercise a magic wand, because you are dealing with many moving parts, and no one individual can come in and change that. You are dealing with a deep-seated culture, and no one individual can come in and change a culture overnight.
Mm-hmm.
It takes time of hard work, it takes time of advocacy, it takes time of consequence management, where people know that if I do wrong, I will be caught. If you look quite clearly in the country, even now,
Yes.
for some reason, people do wrong and somehow expect not to be caught.
Or they simply just get away with it.
They get away with it.
Yes.
They act with impunity. Now, it's because, as you said, the culture has become so fraught it's not among in the government, among our people.
Yes.
It's generally among our people. It's so fraught that people don't even think twice about doing wrong. They simply do it. And it's not at the high level only. It's right in the streets.
And they always say that the fish rots from the head.
Yes.
Right? And we saw that perhaps during that 10-year period where the allegations came through, and when the president is faced with such charges, right, and he seems to be getting away with it, surely once that starts happening, that cascades down to everyone and feels that if he's getting away with it, I can surely also get away with it. And that is a question of leadership. Where did we go wrong? Where did our leaders that were supposed to have liberated this country turn around and become the very enemies of the state?
Yeah. Again, we need to be careful in saying maybe people changed. We were in jails, we were in exile, we were in the country running helter-skelter from the apartheid security forces.
Mm-hmm.
We did not have a natural context for showing who we are.
Okay.
There might be elements that we learned during that chaos. But because we were acting under the cover of a national democratic movement, it was difficult to assess the moral compass of many of us. So maybe it's just some of us are now showing who we've always been, which was covered by the chaos of the struggle against apartheid. So it's very important for us to do that proper analysis, which I believe is not being done really in the media. But having said that, we should not only concentrate on the great men and women, but I need to take a step back and say we did have a period where the leadership generally was a different kind of leadership. When you had the likes of Nelson Mandela, Oliver Tambo, Robert Sobukwe, Wilton Mkwai, Govan Mbeki, the likes of Dora Tamana, all these heroes and heroines who were prepared to sacrifice, they had a different ethic. For them, it was not about themselves.
It was not politics of the stomach.
No, it was not about themselves, to the extent that they were willing to put their lives on the line. Now, that's a different leadership ethic.
Yes.
Now, when the leadership ethic becomes one where before you do anything, you start by asking the question, what is in it for me? Once you establish that as an ethic,
yes,
and as you say, it starts from the top.
It sort of shifts the moral compass.
It shifts the moral compass, and the country learns, because I am a trained teacher. It's one of the things that I'm a teacher trainer as well.
Yes.
That when we're training teachers, we used to tell them, listen, learners do not only take what you say. Much of what they take is what you actually do. Yes. We heard we taught them about what's called the hidden curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
The hidden curriculum is essentially your behavior.
Yes.
When you do certain things, they learn, is that how we behave? Mm. And they learn it. They think it's the right stuff.
Yes.
Because they learn it from you. And in most of the time, you as the teacher using a hidden curriculum, you don't even realize that you are teaching with your behavior. And that's what happens when leadership starts teaching with their behavior.
Because also teachers, we spend a lot of time at home, but we also spend a lot of time at school.
Absolutely.
And these are the people we look up to. You ask many successful people about the teacher that had an impact in their life, either in science, in English, in culture, in choir, and they'll tell you that at school there's a teacher that believed in me, that supported me, or that saw my talent, and hence I became like this. But it also goes the other way, as you say, when even if it's bad behavior, that also gets followed under this sort of hidden curriculum that you speak about.
Indeed, if you put it in those words, South Africa is a big classroom.
Mm.
It's a massive classroom. We are learning on a daily basis from our leaders, from our neighbors, from our parents, from everyone.
Yes.
There's one myth that we should debunk in this discussion. There is generally the idea that during apartheid, everything was hunky-dory. No corruption, nothing. Apartheid was a fantastically corrupt society. The difference is that there was no information about it. You didn't see it on TV.
Yes.
You didn't see it on the internet. There were no investigative journalists. There was nothing. Everything was under the cover. But they were fantastically corrupt. The difference now is that this is a daily movie. We see it. Before we didn't see it. There was a black cover on top of it.
Yes, now there's freedom of media.
No, there's nothing now. We are seeing all of you. So if you do something, we will see you. That's what's happening. Because one of the greatest strengths of the post-apartheid government was to introduce the notion of transparency.
Yes.
We have the structures that lay to bear all the things that are happening, that might be happening behind the scenes, but at some stage, they will be surfaced. And that's what you're seeing in the Madlanga Commission, Zondo, in the courts, by the AG, public protector, the media, and everything. Those things will necessarily surface. So, in a sense, it's almost inconceivable to try to compare the apartheid state with the post-apartheid state, because they lived in completely different milieus from a transparency perspective. So what then in this big classroom of South Africa needs to do? We need to do. Clearly, teachers who are the leaders who give their students, which is the populace, poisonous lessons, those should frankly be put aside. They should be put aside.
Yes.
There's no guarantee, of course, that whoever you replace them with
will be any better.
Will be saints.
Yes.
There's no guarantee. The lesson we are pushing is that there must be consequences, because that becomes a lesson. Those who have broken the law have got to face the might of the law. They must be given an opportunity to make their cases. And as I said earlier, they might be found not guilty. But if they are found guilty, then they should face the consequences of their actions. But that's a culture you slowly start building. And we are seeing a lot of it, actually. We are seeing a lot of it.
Yes.
There are people who have taken money, and the asset forfeiture unit tracks the money, and it says, no, these are proceeds of crime. And so we are taking those proceeds. And we've got what we call CARA in South Africa. It's a fund that basically keeps proceeds of criminal activity.
Also, these blue Lamborghinis that we see.
Those are going to CARA. Those
Yes.
they will be sold, and the money will go to CARA. So CARA then funds law enforcement activities, which otherwise government would not be able to fund. So through those recoveries, government is then able to reinvest that money into law enforcement. So there are, in a sense, consequences that follow, but maybe not at the rate at which citizens would expect.
Of course. Like we want to see people in orange overalls immediately.
Yes. But as a democratic country, you can't do that.
Yes.
You must give people the right to have their say. The rule, the Audi alteram partem rule is a basic common law principle which you must follow. Hear the other side. Because sometimes you think something is happening, and when someone who you are accusing comes in, and you start hearing the other side, you realize, I was wrong.
Yes.
So we must give the other side an opportunity to say their say. But we've got sufficient and strong law enforcement systems that we have seen sending people to where they belong after doing unlawful things.
You speak about education, and I think that's something that's very, very close to your heart. I think you did your PhD in mathematics assessment. Yet, as a country, when we speak about STEM subjects, we're still struggling. We're still struggling at all levels, especially within public schools when it comes to mathematics. Where are we failing? What needs to change? Because I also know you were involved quite a lot in the curriculum that needed to be changed from Apartheid South Africa to this new South Africa.
Let me start by saying we have made great strides in the education sector since 1994. That we can't undo, we can't deny.
Yes.
Lots of strides. I meet so many young people who are graduating with PhDs in things that I never, ever thought I would see a black person graduating in.
Yes.
Some of which I actually don't know what it is. I have to sit and ask, what is this PhD about? And because it's something new, it didn't exist during our time.
Mm-hmm.
So we are seeing lots and lots of that. The other day, just 2 days ago, a 25-year-old PhD graduate was graduating at the University of KwaZulu-Natal on some funny topic which I didn't recognize.
Yes.
Even I, as a person who comes from mathematics. We are making great strides. If you take the number of people who have university degrees compared to during our time, it's way, way too much. If you go, you look at children who are in school, from grade 1, grade R, to grade 9.
Yes.
A good 90 to 95% of children who are supposed to be in school are there. That was not like that during apartheid. I think people have forgotten. It was about 40%.
Okay.
During apartheid.
Yes.
It's now about 90 to 95%. So the bulk of the people were outside of the schooling system. So I think sometimes when we get angry, we forget these little facts. During apartheid, not everyone did mathematics of any sort, in particularly from grade 10 to grade 12 now, standard 8 to standard 10. You had a choice when you arrived in in grade 10, standard 8, not to do any mathematics whatsoever. After we changed the curriculum,
okay,
we introduced mathematical literacy. The trick was, you have to do some mathematics. But the mathematics obviously would change. You would have what we call mathematics and then what we call mathematical literacy.
Yes.
So everyone had to do either of the two. Previously, during apartheid, we've got a large number of people who did no mathematics at all. And I think people forget that little fact.
Yes.
We have a problem, of course, now that many children are seeing that the best way of passing matric is to shift from mathematics, which some call pure mathematics, to mathematical literacy.
Yes.
And the balance, I personally am not happy with the balance, that at some stage there were more mathematics than mathematical literacy learners.
Yes.
Now there are more mathematical literacy learners than mathematics learners. That's not a good thing. It's something that we need to address as a country. Then let's deal with issues that are often surfaced by international assessments, like trends in mathematics and science. What TIMS is telling us, for instance,
Yes.
there has been, for the past 15 or so years, there has been an upward trend in mathematics and science achievement in South Africa. It's an upward trend.
Yes.
Over a long period of time. But the growth is not sufficient to make South Africa a country that is ready and fit for producing sufficient numbers of people who can economically operate in a highly industrialized country. Because if you don't have mathematics and science in a big way, if you do not do sufficient research and development, R&D, because things like mathematics and science are very useful for you to create a country with strong R&D. So look at the Germans, strong R&D there. Look at the Chinese now. They are running away like a wildfire because their system of education and training, you must remember, they're not just doing education, they're also doing training, which we also do in the TVET colleges. So it's important that we continue to strengthen education, concentrate on research and development as a country, and ensure that we do not only teach and train people to be employed. It's one of the biggest problems we have in South Africa. Our mentality is that of thinking that to be employed is to work for someone else. And that actually is a mentality that was imposed on us by colonialism.
Yes.
And apartheid.
Yes.
Because before the arrival of the colonialists, people were working, but they were working for themselves. They were planting. They kept livestock. They were doing all sorts of activities.
They were bartering. They were trading. Yes.
Yes. But then what then happened? The currency was the bartering.
Yes.
And then when the colonialists came, they said, right, we are introducing money. They introduced money, and then they said, right, everyone must pay tax. And we only accept money for tax.
Yes.
We don't accept your goat. So, what do? you open mines in Johannesburg and elsewhere. Then you go to the rural areas where people are battering, they are plowing, they are keeping livestock.
Yes, their livestock, their wheat, yes.
Exactly. You then say to them, you now have to pay tax and you must use money. There are mines in Johannesburg. You have to go there, work for 6 months, earn the money, pay tax, come back for 6 months to do what you were doing. So with that, we introduced a mentality that work is not work unless you work for someone else.
Do you think that has stifled development, innovation, the ability for ordinary South Africans to dream beyond what they know? We don't see a lot of innovation in South Africa. It's very few and far in between. Is it as a result of that sort of failure in our education system?
No, actually, Mac, there's a lot of innovation in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation yesterday was delivering his budget vote speech in Parliament. Before then, they had an exhibition at the Iziko Museum in Cape Town.
Mm-hmm.
The innovation you see is incredible, absolutely incredible. It's unfortunate because that's not news.
It never makes the headlines,
It
right?
never makes the headlines.
Yes.
There's lots of innovation,
Yes.
lots and lots of innovation in the country. And government is beginning to encourage it in a big way. Bursaries, it's funding lots of initiatives. I mean, you go right here in Pretoria, there's a place called the Innovation Hub, which belongs to the Gauteng government.
Yes.
Similarly, you go to universities, you go to colleges, there's incredible innovation taking place, but it's not given the spotlight because it's not the thing that will sell you a newspaper.
I can Lubisi Madlanga Commission.
Yeah.
Lubisi the minister.
Yeah, that's what but we've got lots of innovation in South Africa. Maybe not enough, certainly not. We can multiply it 1,000 times, and that's what the Chinese are doing. The innovation in China is something that cannot be comprehended by a normal brain. It's just way beyond the human comprehension. If you look at what the Chinese are doing, they can build a road where no one would ever imagine such a thing can happen.
Yes.
Those people can build a speed train from Shanghai to Beijing that will actually, at a speed which would actually make you to arrive at the same time by train as by plane. And we never imagined things like that.
Yes.
China has got the largest number of electric vehicles in the world than the whole world combined. America, everyone, put them all together. China has got more electric vehicles than them. The whole of us. Now, they're engaging in great innovation. We are doing the same in South Africa, but not at the scale that we should be doing at. So we still have a lot of work to do, but we must recognize the efforts that government is putting in this. It's not enough. As I say, it is not enough. I spoke about R&D, research and development. Generally speaking, we aspire as a country to spend 1.5% of GDP on research and development. That's what our research tells us. If we do that, South Africa will be on a greater growth trajectory. But at the moment, we spend about 0.78%.
Do you ever sit and look at the work that you have done, especially in this sort of transition from a curriculum point of view, and feel like there's certain things that we may have done wrong, and there's certain things that we definitely got right? You spoke earlier on about the fact that people think things were hunky-dory during apartheid, right? But you look at places like ISCO, you look at places like Denel, you look at places like Nexa, where South Africa was leading in many aspects in those kind of industries. Yet when the transition happened, a lot of that fell away. Is it as a result of not being able to churn out as many innovators, mathematicians, statisticians, and these sort of STEM subject-driven people into the system? And you then sit back and say, maybe there's somewhere that we shouldn't have changed. Maybe there's somewhere we should have kept it the way it is.
Partly yes. But what we need to understand, and let me start by saying, we saw serious declines in institutions such as ISCO, Denel, AMSCO, ESCOM, and all those very powerful institutions, Honest Board, which is why we are battling with foot and mouth now. We were the leading producers of animal vaccines at Honest Board. We killed that thing, which it's a great pity. Now, there are various reasons why some of these things were killed. In Honest Support, we simply defunded it. Denel, there's lots of funny things happening there.
Yes.
Firstly, of course, we defunded them too. Secondly, we saw an exodus of our best innovators, of our best scientists leaving those institutions.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them were actually poached by countries in the Gulf region and the Middle East. Denel was one of our best performing institutions. And at some stage, it was really infiltrated by people who sought to make money for themselves. And in that instance, basically killed the organization. But having made that point, that we've seen this decline, we also have to analyze why those institutions operated the manner they did, as if they were clockwork.
Yes.
Remember that South Africa was isolated. There were sanctions against South Africa. So what South Africa did, it then created institutions that would make them self-sufficient and sufficiently funded those institutions. So they would fund a Denel, they would fund an AMSCO, they would fund all those institutions, Honest Support, and because they needed to be self-sufficient.
Yes.
Because they were under international isolation. And what they did, they then defunded. They defunded particularly Black communities. I think many people have forgotten that prior to 1994, only white people were receiving social grants.
Social grants?
Yes.
White people are receiving social grants during the time?
Absolutely.
Heaven.
Now, when a new government comes in, it shifts its budget structure
Mm.
and dedicates a lot of it to social spending, to education, to health, and to social development.
Yes.
That necessarily shifts this funding, because we've got only one pot.
Yes.
You have to, if you fund this area more, you must defund that area.
Yes.
That's what happened with the defunding of the science institutes you are referring to, because we shifted some of this funding to social development, to education, to health. As I told you earlier, many Black people were not at school during apartheid.
Yes.
They had to be brought back, come to school, because we can't rely on goodies from your parents, or you must go to school so that you can be independent. What did we do? We introduced, for instance, a simple thing. We introduced what is known now as RDP housing. There was no such thing. Didn't exist.
Yes.
Where did the money come from? It's the money that we defunded all these other institutions. So the bulk of the science institutions suffered heavily because of that policy change.
Mm-hmm.
Some of I generally believe that the policy change was generally a good change, because you are now including those who were excluded. And our constitution says that we have to be inclusive, we have to build the potential of every citizen. And that's what we're trying to do by ensuring that we've got a better human development index.
Uh-huh.
That's how you do this. So it's not that everything died because of corruption. No, it's a policy thing, because your public purse is not bottomless.
When you speak about the public purse, it leads me to the municipalities. And when you look at a lot of South African municipalities, they've either gotten qualified or adverse audit opinions, right? You look at things like irregular expenditure, weak controls, service delivery, fraud, corruption. Where did we go wrong? We've got institutions, we've got auditing firms, we've got laws, yet every other day you hear of the corruption that happens within municipalities, where to this day there are some that are almost dysfunctional.
Again, there are lots of reasons why some municipalities just don't work. And my sense, I've not done my figures, so it's a slightly speculation, is that the majority of municipalities who house the majority of people in South Africa,
yes,
are dysfunctional. There are 257 municipalities in the country. I don't know among those 257 how many are dysfunctional. All I'm hypothesizing,
yes,
that where the majority of the people live, those municipalities are largely dysfunctional, and it's a function of various issues. You start by a simple thing. That's what I'm trying to indicate to you earlier. When you include more people than they were included before, I'll take a simple example. You've got, let's take a hospital now before I go to municipalities. You find that in a town or city, there was one hospital and it only served whites. In a town or city, you had a certain amount of electricity and only whites had electricity. We didn't have electricity. We were using candles and paraffin.
Yes.
And that's where we come from. Now, in the infrastructure of Johannesburg, which was designed for a particular number of people, largely whites, you now bring millions of people to benefit from the same infrastructure, and you don't maintain it. That's a recipe for disaster. You don't expand that infrastructure.
Yes.
Recipe for disaster. You're saying you provide almost the same amount of water in Johannesburg as you did 30 years ago. You don't expand that. You're calling for chaos.
Yes,
You don't maintain the infrastructure, the bulk water infrastructure and the reticulation. I worked for some time trying to assist the city of eThekwini. And I was shocked by a fact that I discovered there, that 58% of the water that leaves the treatment plant is what's called non-revenue water. In other words, it's a leaking bucket. You start with a full bucket. By the time you arrive where the water is supposed to be used, you now have 42% of the water that you started with.
Yes.
It's leaking. Partly because the infrastructure is leaking. The water pipes are leaking. Partly because people are joining in on the way. They have water, but they don't pay for it. So it's non-revenue water. Johannesburg has got exactly the same issue. That's why you see that water crisis in Johannesburg.
Yes.
And it's everywhere. Now, so you've got that situation where we have not expanded sufficiently enough to give services, public goods and services to our people who have expanded in number. Not only South Africans, we host a large number of expatriates from other countries who are here, illegally and legally.
Yes.
And you have to consider that when you do your planning. But at the same time, we depleted and did not sufficiently replace skill.
Yes.
Some of the issues we face in electricity in towns, and it simply don't have the people. You don't have the technical people. You don't have that expertise. And when trouble starts, they become overstretched. It's a serious problem that we have. So it's engineers. We don't have a sufficient number of engineers in our cities. We need to boost that number in a very big way. So all those technical issues exist. They are objective, and they can be dealt with if you start with a proper program. But the permanent elephant in the room are those who seek to profiteer
Yes.
from the cities, from the towns, from the rural areas, and they cause chaos. Let's take the fellows of the water tanks.
The water tank mafia.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, those fellows go and deliberately sabotage water systems so that then there's no water in particular localities.
Yes. They're creating business for themselves.
Yes. They're very innovative in the wrong way. Because then the municipality will need them,
of course,
to go and provide water. Otherwise, there'll be a riot. So it's people like that who are there to profiteer through wrong means. But they work often with some people within the municipalities. They don't work on their own. They work with people in the municipalities. We've seen how, for instance, even tenders being inappropriately awarded to people who have no idea of the work they're supposed to be doing. And you just wonder, how on earth is it possible that a particular tender for the construction of RDP houses is given by someone who has never seen cement in their lives? They have no idea what they are doing.
Yes.
They don't know how to plan. Then you get surprised when the house falls in a year's time, because they don't know what they are doing. There's also no supervision. Instead, those of you understand construction, when you take cement and mix it with sand, there are specific amounts, proportions.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're supposed to put 5 bags of cement and you put 2 or 3 bags of sand, you realize cement is a bit expensive. So instead of the 5, now I'll put 2. So the 3 goes into my pocket and into the pocket of the person who gave me the tender. Or in some instances, we inflate. If a bag normally would cost you 30 rands, no, we will now say it is 100 rand. So that kind of corruption,
yes,
is essentially taking away from the poor. And it is something that government, I know, is dealing with. There's a new white paper that Minister Thabisa has issued in the past few weeks,
yes,
trying to deal with these kinds of issues. But even the leadership, MacG, and I'm glad many parties are now looking at this, because this thing of populism is that you say, no, for us to win the election, let's take this guy who's streetwise. He'll go and intimidate the whole township to vote for him.
Yes, the loudest one in the room.
The loudest one in the room. But he's got no idea of leadership. None. He can't even read the documents they're supposed to be discussing. I've heard horror stories of councillors arriving at meetings and start opening the envelopes which contain the files which are supposed to be discussed in the meeting. They open it there, some of them.
Would you say it's a failure of leadership? Is it a failure of systems? Or is it a lack of skills? Or is it a combination of all three that we see these sort of systemic, we see this sort of systemic rot in our municipalities?
It is a combination. As I've consistently said, it's a combination of lots of complexities. It's a complex, I've said, government is a very complex enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
There is no one cause for anything. Everything is caused by multiple factors. And if you don't properly analyze those multiple factors, you will provide 1/10 of the medication. And don't be surprised if you don't get well.
Yes.
You won't. Because you address 1, 9 are still staring you in the face.
Mm.
And you keep on pushing this one, but you're not dealing with the 9. So it requires a complex effort and requires society to also work together. In a sense, form a social alliance, form a social compact between the various players
Yes.
in society. And by social compact, I mean all of us must define what our contribution is going to be to the solution of a problem, and what is it that all of us are willing to forego in order for us to collectively resolve this problem. If we don't do that, if we don't say, this is what we'll do, this is what we'll contribute, and this is what we'll forego, we're going nowhere very fast.
Uncle Kaz, you've had an opportunity to work at the intersection of people and system, and this you've done this for many years, all the way from the Jacob Zuma administration. Having had your eye on these different institutions, what have you learned about human behavior inside of the system that a lot of people don't see? What have you learned about how these systems that have been put into place, and there's a disjuncture between the systems and the people that are supposed to sort of deliver for the general public?
Yeah, what one learns if you deal with organizations, and it doesn't need to be government only. You go to the private sector, you go anywhere. The principle is the same. You are dealing with a triangle of people, systems, and processes.
Uh-huh.
Now, that triangle has to be coherent. It's a pity that it's a triangle. I would have wanted it to be another structure. Why I'm saying that, as someone who has a mathematics background,
Mm-hmm.
In mathematics, the triangle is the strongest structure. It's unbreakable.
Solid.
You can't break a triangle.
Mm-hmm.
You can break all these other structures, not a triangle. But here, the triangle of people, systems, and structures appears in many organizations to be dysfunctional. You can put the best systems, the best processes, and then you put bad people. You've got a problem.
Yes.
You've got a very serious problem. You find that in some instances, we've been consistently saying there's an issue with skills. Wrong people in wrong positions. For whatever reason, I've come across people who are simply in wrong positions. They're not supposed to be there. They have no idea what they are doing.
We often speak about catered deployment, patronage, right? Where it's almost favors that are done to certain comrades to fill those positions when those people don't even have the right qualifications. I mean, you spoke earlier on about the loudest one in the room who then gets voted because everybody's scared of them. And you give this person a budget of R1 billion, and then you expect them to deliver.
Is a key problem. I know there's this debate about cadre deployment. There's nothing wrong with cadre deployment. What's wrong is deploying the wrong cadres.
Yes.
Because there are stunning people which I meet every day. Absolutely stunning, skilled people. But they are not the loud guys. They are not. They are not. So, and they don't demand anything.
Yes.
So they tend then to be overshadowed by the loud fellows. There is a problem, indeed, where people who are not fit for purpose, for particular posts, are placed there. It's a problem which we have seen. We don't even need to argue about it anymore. All of us agree it's a problem. In some instances, you try to analyze the systems of the organization, and you realize, no, it's not fit for purpose. You will, with this system, you will not achieve what you seek to achieve.
Yes.
You can have the best people, best cadre, but if your systems are nowhere where they are supposed to be, you are already threatening the organization. So, in short, I'm saying the triangle of people, processes, and systems has to be consistently analyzed and changed, because situations change, technologies change. If you think we are going to operate with the technologies that we had 30 years ago, you're in the wrong place. You are in such trouble. You have to change. You have to change those systems. We are now in an age of digitalization. How many of your people in your organization have ever heard the word digitalization? Do they know what it means? Do they know what the impact of digitalization is on their work, on their own work?
Yes.
Are those people fit for purpose? Will they be able to run digitalized systems, or do they become redundant? What is the organization doing in order to develop those people, to assume new roles? I'm not saying all of them will be developed to assume new roles. Some of them might be right at the end of their careers and they are not interested. But the people you are employing, are you employing them with the future in mind? Or you are employing them with the mind of the old telephone exchange? So those are the issues which organizations have to grapple with.
Yes.
They have to grapple with those things. And there is no one solution. You have to try different solutions. One of the biggest problems with the public sector, MacG, is that the public sector is risk averse. Leadership in the public sector, they're scared to take risks.
Yes.
Very scared. So they wouldn't try new things easily. You almost have to kind of drag them kicking and screaming into the new world.
Yes.
Because they are scared. No, we've been doing this thing for 50 years and it's been working. Now you say we must leave what we know to do something we don't know. No, you're on your own. So we've seen that kind of resistance within organizations where people are risk averse and they don't want to change. So it's something that needs to be constantly addressed. I know our friends at the post office would probably say I'm being too harsh, but the post office is dead today.
Yes.
Because it did not see the change coming. Someone thought that we would still be sending letters and putting them in those red
Post boxes.
Post boxes.
Yes.
When email came in and social media and everything came in, I think there was insufficient discussion within the post office, for instance, to say what are the implications of these things for us? What are the implications for our staff? What are the implications for our own survival and existence? How do we get in and take the front seat
Yes.
in this, so that the front seat is not occupied by others? And I think the post office allowed others to take the front seat, and they were left with all those letters of the post box
Sitting there.
Now, it's something that all organizations, government and the private sector, have to consistently look at. So, in a nutshell, I think what I've seen throughout is serious resistance to move with the times, a serious resistance. Also, we do not invest sufficiently to enable organizations to move with the times. We don't. And it's what I call penny wise and pound foolish. No, we lose one penny here. But you don't realize that if you use that penny, you might just gain £5. So it's looking at the present and not sufficiently extrapolating into the future to say, if we don't spend this cent now, we will use 5 billion rand. We'll lose 5 billion rand next week. We need this 5 cents now in order for us not to lose 1 billion rand next week.
When you look at the role that you've played within the government space and in the various institutions where you've had a role to play, I mean, you had a front row seat at some of the most important institutional moments in the history of this country. When you sit back and reflect on some of the things that you've been involved in, some of the institutions you've been involved in, some of the policies that you help write, do you sometimes see the impact that you've made? Do you sometimes see the difference that you've made? And are there places where you can say, "Mona respanne man," and we are seeing the fruits of our labor?
Yes and no, Mac. Changing an entity like the state, as I say, is a very complex thing. And the results are not seen immediately. I believe some of the results of the systems we put in place and over the years would happen when I'm no longer on this side of humanity. We will not see it, some of it. It's like when you turn a massive ship turn the direction of a massive ship on the ocean. When you turn it a little bit, the people who are there now, they will not even realize you've turned it. They'll think it's still pointing in the same direction.
Yes.
But over the years, as the two directions differ, you realize, my goodness, if we did not change the direction, we would be heading this way.
Yes.
It's only after a long travel on the ocean, when you've changed direction, that you realize we have changed direction. Regrettably, by that time, those who changed the direction might no longer be around. There are things which, however, which I think I personally also contributed and did with the collective, that you reflect, sit and reflect, and you think, no, we should not have done that one. That one, no, it's not working.
We fumbled here.
No, there it's a bit of a problem there.
Yes.
We should not have gone that route. And I think the good thing is that you can always self-correct.
Yes.
You can always self-correct. That's why I continue to interact with government. I work with government very closely because I'm able to stand from outside and say, listen, that thing that was started by us, you might have to abandon. It's not going to work for you. We started seeing it's not working. If you pursue it, you're going to land in trouble. Maybe let's consider these new options now and see whether any of them would be better at resolving that problem you're dealing with. So it's that interaction is important because we've got nothing to gain. We learn, we've got time to learn from other governments and other countries and all that. We interact with many countries in the world. So we're able to self-correct. So but that takes courage. That's professional courage.
Yes.
It requires professional courage, even among the officials who are there now. We need to build professional courage within the public administration. And professional courage is as simple as telling a minister, say, Minister, what you are saying makes absolutely perfect political sense, but it will destroy this department, it will lose us money, it will put us in serious trouble. Let's go and rethink what you're saying. So that's political courage.
Yes.
You are advising without engaging in theatrics. So it's that kind of political courage that you need to build within the public sector. That's what we need.
You have sat at the highest offices. Perhaps in your much younger days, during the time of Dr. Nelson Mandela, had an opportunity a little bit during the time of Thabo Mbeki, former President Thabo Mbeki. Saw the Jacob Zuma administration, saw the administration of President Cyril Ramaphosa. When you look at those different leadership styles and roles that these particular gentlemen have played in our country, who would you say is the one that steered our country forward in the most positive direction? And in the work that they did and the direction that they took, how was it undone?
Again, it's important to know that there are no saints and angels, no saints and devils. All of them at their strengths.
Mm-hmm.
It's a combination. All of them had got their limitations.
Yes.
So you have to take from this one, the strength of this one, combine it with the strength of that one, try to avoid the weaknesses of that one and that one and that one. It's how it works. It works. President Mandela came in at a very difficult time, where he had to create the nation called South Africa.
Mm. He had to stop the country from burning.
Yeah, it was trouble. So it needed a Nelson Mandela. Fate sometimes is something else. It needed a Nelson Mandela and Oliver Tambo. Those are the kinds of qualities. If Luthuli was there, Chief Albert Luthuli was there, he was also that kind of guy.
Mm.
Now, he stabilized our country. He helped us, put us on a road to building the South African nation.
He helped with our transition.
With our transition. With that transition was absolutely crucial. And he was, at the state level, a very level-headed person. He had international aura. You couldn't refuse Mandela. If he walks into your business and says, can you build 2 schools? He's not asking, he's telling you in a nice way.
In a very nice way.
That you must go and build those 2 schools. So
Yes.
he had a vision and ethics that were beyond comparison. Now, it's that kind of leader we needed a Madiba. You needed a Mbeki who looked at the issue of the economy, because he concentrated on economic development.
Yes.
Not surprising, because he's got a master's in economics. He's an economist.
Mm-hmm.
And he understands that countries will never be stable unless they've got growing economies.
Yes.
Of course, it was largely jobless growth, but we were seeing growth. He put in systems. He was a systems person. Ensured that systems are there. Again, is to mitigate against human intervention,
Yes.
particularly nefarious human intervention. He put those systems in place, and very, very strong with that. There were issues and debate around the issue of HIV and AIDS and all those kinds of things. So, and that's why you can't be good in everything.
Yes.
It's not possible. But the role he played was absolutely great. He continues to contribute up to date. Jacob Zuma, President Zuma came in. He came in and said, okay, this HIV and AIDS thing, we're going to tackle it. So you have to give him credit for that.
Yes.
You have to give him credit for saying, look, our university plant is too small. Let's build 3 new universities.
Yes.
Previously, all of us were scared to do that.
Called this briefing to update you on the establishment of new universities, one in the Northern Cape and one in Mpumalanga.
Then, of course, he did all sorts of very good things. But then, of course, things started falling apart, largely because of his associations. I think his associations put him in some kind of trouble. And it is well known that this one particular family from India.
Ever the diplomat, I love it.
Had an emphasized role in state institutions where they were not supposed to be in the first place. And it just became seriously problematic. And it's a pity that then became his signature. Which, I remember we had an argument with the late Tito Mboweni, who crafted the notion of 9 wasted years. And I said to Tito, no, man, there's no such thing. Man. Because if you say so, it means all the ministers who were working under Zuma and all of us were useless. Which can't be true. How would we have managed to reverse HIV when at some stage we had wiped out 300,000 people? It's no longer happening. Every day, the cemetery was full of people being buried. Now we've gone back to burying on Saturdays. It didn't happen because we prayed. It was a genuine effort. All sorts of things that were done during that time. So don't take one element of a person and then characterize it as the entire administration was like that. That's a bit of lazy thinking. President Ramaphosa has continued very well on the economic trajectory, but he took on a state that was hollowed out.
He was given a hot potato.
Yeah, it was a state that was hollowed out for nefarious reasons.
Yes.
So he had to try to put it together. It's not an easy thing.
Of course.
When Humpty Dumpty falls off the wall and breaks, you have to know which part formed this part of Humpty Dumpty, which among these things that are broken. It takes an effort to do that. And some of it will be seen after he has left.
Yes.
His work, some of it will be seen after he has left. But there's already clear evidence. We are seeing the turnaround of some of the organizations such as ESCOM, Transnet, and others. They're coming back. To some extent, Denel is starting, a little bit. They will come back. He also had to deal with a huge level of distrust between the public sector and the private sector. That is hard stuff, I can tell you. Because you'll recall during the days, even during President Begi's time, there were all these accusations the private sector is sitting with money, doesn't want to invest.
Yes.
It's because they didn't trust the state. Now, so President Ramaphosa, being someone who comes from the private sector himself, then is beginning to build those bridges. To ensure that we all work together. We call on them to invest in our economy.
Yes.
So he's going in the right direction, in my view. He's going on the right direction. Of course, he'll have detractors as well. No, you are selling off our property, state property, and all those things, because people have got different ways of looking at things. But sometimes what are called selling off of state property is to allow what we call private participation. Because the fiscus, let's be clear, anyone who thinks that the fiscus on its own can repair the damage at Transnet in the logistics system needs to have their heads checked. It's not possible.
Yes.
You need to bring in private sector investment. You are not saying the private sector is taking over. They are going to work under state control. But you have to get their funds in. You go and sort out those rail lines. Go and sort out the stations. So that we bring back our logistics system to where it's supposed to be. And you stop this thing of having the N3 and the N1 full of trucks. You can't run a country like that. It's unsustainable. So when you enter into those discussions with the private sector, it does not mean that you are selling. You can say you can participate in this effort.
Yes.
And your rewards will be like this. Okay, we give you 5%. Or we give you a particular percentage, but these are the rules under which you work. It's our rules. So President Ramaphosa has been trying to do that, to bring the private sector and the public sector to work together. But as I said, he will always be criticized. No, he's weak and all these kinds of things. People can say that. When you are in leadership, you are game. You are game, and you must know that.
Dr. Cass, when you sit back and look at what is happening at the Madlanga Commission, when you see the revelations around what is happening within our state security institutions, when you see how the private sector has almost corrupted the public sector, and know the work that you have done when you were at government, do you still have hope for this country? Do you still want to stay? Because there's this thing, there's a hashtag I'm staying. Or do you feel the rot has gotten so bad that there's no turning back? Have we become a mafia state, as a lot of people are now starting to term us?
Well, will I stay? I have nowhere to go. So the question does not even arise. I am here. I have no other place to go to. And God willing, I might still have a few years left of life.
Mm-hmm.
And I am contributing to ensuring that we solve some of these things. We must always live in hope that today is better than yesterday and tomorrow will be better than today. And I do not believe in the idea said by others that South Africa is a failed state. No, they have not seen a failed state. They must go to failed states where nothing works. Absolutely nothing works. It would be a bit of an exaggeration if you say nothing works in South Africa, because that wouldn't be true at all. You have said the private sector has corrupted the public sector. Not entirely accurate. Because the bulk of the private sector is working very well with the government. As I say, President Ramaphosa is trying to get them. But there is the nefarious private sector. That's the private sector of the gentlemen who are in prisons and appearing at Madlala and in courts. That's a nefarious private sector.
Yes.
It's people who are collaborating with state officials to defraud the state.
Yes.
Ordinarily, a private sector doesn't operate that way. They've got strict rules.
Yes.
Some of them adhere to the Companies Act. Got the Companies Act that they have to adhere to. Some of them are members of the GSE, and there are very, very strict rules there. You can't do anyhow, do as you please. There are international controlling bodies and all this that generally the private sector has to work with. Otherwise, you'll be sanctioned.
Yes.
And you won't be able to operate. So there are people in the private sector who are engaged in nefarious activities in collaboration with dodgy characters within the state.
Yes.
So in a sense, it can be a one-way, the private sector corrupting the state. It's also elements of the state corrupting elements in the private sector. It's a tango.
Yes.
It takes two to tango.
Yes.
And unfortunately, we've seen sufficient evidence of that in various court cases, in various commissions. So it's something that we have to deal with. I have great confidence on the future of South Africa. I have great confidence. However, it will take hard work. It will take us many years to be where we want to be. But I don't think anyone should throw the towel. We are experiencing serious headwinds. But the headwinds, with changes in direction, changes in personnel, ensuring that our plane is sufficiently maintained, we will go past these headwinds. There will never be a time where everyone is satisfied about everything.
Yes.
That's nirvana. That's when you really are now in the wrong place. You're supposed to have died and go to nirvana so that you can experience that there. Because on earth, it doesn't happen anywhere. So I'm very, very confident about the future of our country, but it will require hard work.
Speaking about that, if you could wave a magic wand, if you could redesign one particular system in South Africa with no red tape, no committees, no robust debate, as they say in political circles. Which is the one thing you feel that if we can get this right, our country will change for the better?
Well, we in a sense, we're doing it already. And strangely, the place where which was notorious with every South African, and that's Home Affairs. Home Affairs, as you all know, was an absolute nightmare and disaster.
Yes.
But clear attempts, government is now looking at making the systems work again through digitalization. The transformation towards a digital ID, not meaning that you won't need your smart card and all this thing. You can have both. Why should you be sitting in a queue in the sun in town when you can apply for your ID online and get it in 3 days' time? Why should it be difficult to register births and deaths? There's improving the systems within Home Affairs, and that's I sat in a committee where we made that recommendation. You have to improve the systems. The systems are medieval, and they don't talk to each other. Once they start talking to, the systems are changed and they start talking to each other, you're going to see a different Home Affairs. Because remember, Home Affairs is the core. It's
the heartbeat of the country.
Yes. If you don't have an ID, God, how are you going to get into a school? You can't go to any clinic or hospital. When you get old, how are you going to get your pension? If you are sick, how are you going to get a social grant? How are you going to get a job? You can't operate. You can't operate. We have to ensure that everyone in South Africa is documented, has got an ID, and we know what they are doing. So those systems, as we said to Home Affairs, you need to get those systems working in an integrated manner. But they should not just work at Home Affairs. That digital platform must cut across the entire government.
Yes.
The entire government, such that you don't need to be filling, you arrive at social development, you now start filling a form with the information that Home Affairs has. For what?
Yes.
No, there's no need for that. These things must talk to each other. They must arrive at a hospital or in prison, even in prison.
Yes.
And so, you are so and so. Let's see. Oh, okay, we can see what you were doing. You must see what you were doing with Home Affairs, we're doing at school, what you are doing elsewhere. The systems must be talking to each other.
Fully integrated.
Once you have a fully integrated, digitalized government, I promise you, we will move heaven and earth. But of course, that all depends on whether we have the infrastructure to do so. Because if you go to a rural area, network not working.
Network not networking.
No, not networking. 2G, 2 bars.
Yeah.
That's not going to work. That's not going to work. So that's why we need to improve the systems. We need to improve the network in a big way. Hence, you get people like Elon Musk saying, no, bring Starlink and all this thing. There are those who say so. I buy one side of their argument that low orbit satellites is what's going to help South Africa to improve our networks, even in rural areas. But Starlink is not the only organization running low orbit satellites. You go to China, you go to some parts of Europe, they're doing the same thing. using different technologies. So the idea that there's one company on earth that's doing that's not true. So any company that's going to come here will play by our rules. They won't come and start their own rules because they are related to some tall people who can intimidate the whole world and give them high tariffs and all that. That's not going to work here. It's not going to work here.
Yes.
Some of us are very clear about that. So we need to address the network issue in South Africa. Only then, of course, you also need energy, sufficient energy.
Yes.
You can't run integrated systems because they
consume energy.
They consume energy big time. If you don't have sufficient energy, we won't be able to run. So I'm saying integrated systems. If I were to come with a magic wand, that's what I'll come up with. But it's got implications for energy. Because without that, then you're wasting your time.
Final question, Dr. Kaz. When you are not Dr. Cassius Lubisi, when you're not the ultimate politician, when you're not the ultimate public servant, how do you unwind? Is there ever a time when you take off all of these hats and you're just Cassius?
For some reason, I thought by now I would be strong in unwinding. But I realized that all that thinking was wishful thinking. I even used to go to stadiums to watch football. But these days I hardly do that. I watch much of my football on TV, which is a pity because TV is one thing, the stadium is something else.
Yes.
Completely, that experience is absolutely wonderful. I read quite a lot in hard copy as well as electronically. So I spend most of my time reading. I naturally, let me not say naturally, I should say historically, I was averse to reading fiction because I thought, I don't have the time to be reading lies. I don't have time for that.
Yes.
But in this world today, it's extremely difficult to separate fiction from reality. Even reality sounds like fiction now.
Yes.
So, I'm thinking maybe I must start reading fiction again because reality is like fiction.
But truth is stranger than fiction in this day and age.
Indeed. So, and I like just to listen to music as well. And just talking to friends, sometimes talking really things which are clearly we know are nonsensical. But now and then you must
Yes.
give yourself time to talk nonsense and laugh.
Yes.
Because laughter is one of the best cures for depression. So it's good for your lungs too, So I prefer to laugh rather than to be angry. That's why even in the way I operate in a manner that I don't get angry. Many people try to get me angry, but you'll have to work very hard to get people like me angry, because once that happens, all hell will break loose.
Wow.
I don't trust that if I get angry, I can be able to control myself. So it's best to be always okay. I worked with an old man, Themba Herikwala, the late Themba Herikwala.
Yes.
He told me a story. He said, you see, don't be fooled by the gliding of a swan on a lake. See, when you see a swan on a lake, it glides so nicely, peacefully and quietly.
Yes.
But just put your head under the water and see how violently the swan is paddling.
Yes.
But then society doesn't need to see those things. We want to see this.
You want to see that glide.
The glide.
Yes.
So that's how we must also operate. The chaos, the troubles we face as we try to provide public goods and service to our people. No, those must not be seen. They must see us doing the thing. They must see water coming through their taps, electricity, everything. They must see their children going to school. They must go to functional hospital. While we are struggling under there, you don't need to be telling them about your struggles. Show them the glide.
Wow.
That's what we need to do.
Dr. Cassius, Lubisi, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Talking to you is constantly a well of knowledge. I appreciate your time, and I think a lot more of this needs to go out to the greater public. We appreciate the work you have done, the sacrifices that you've made for this country, and thank you for coming to Be Frank with MacG.
Thank you very much, MacG, and all the best with your podcast.
Thank you, Dad.
Thank you.